Well, it's February. We're a month into the year. So, how are all of your resolutions and goals going? Oh, we're not talking about that anymore because it's February. Oh. Well, then let's talk about habits just for fun. Welcome to Allie on Life, where we are crafting great stories, whether that is in life, in business, or on the page. Habits. They are little things that really run our lives, aren't they? I mean, they're the things that we do all the time, and sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, sometimes they just are. But if we can control our habits, we can control our lives, and that's really important. So how can we change them or add new ones or get rid of ones that we are not happy with anymore? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's talk about it. Now, this whole video is not going to be actually a book review, but I do want to talk about a book that really changed sort of my life and the way that I think about habits, and that is this book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. Now, in full transparency, I will tell you my bookmark is right here in this book, which means I have read 55 pages. Not the whole book. But even in just the 55 pages that I read, it really changed a lot of my thinking. So I highly recommend it. And hey, if you've read all of it, maybe you can fill me in on what I've missed. And maybe someday I'll read the rest of it too. But if you've seen my video about book, course, or coach, you know that I don't really learn very well from books. I like the idea of them and I will start them and get some great stuff out of them. And then sometimes I lose them and then I forget where they are. I do want to talk about two things that I found really helpful in reading those first 50 pages of Atomic Habits. Seriously, everyone has read this book at this point. But if you haven't, or even if you have, here's what I learned from it. First of all, an essential step to changing your habits is changing your thinking. Changing how you think of yourself in relation to a particular thing. So like say you're wanting to eat healthier and eat less junk food. So you would say that instead of being someone who just has a real weakness for junk food all the time, or, oh, I just have this sweet tooth that I can't get over. Instead, you would change the way that you talk about yourself and the way that you think of yourself and basically your identity regarding food. So I'm a person who makes healthy food choices most of the time, although I do love pizza and cupcakes, and so I will indulge in those whenever they are available. But I avoid junk food and soda. That's an example of what I say about myself and what I had to say about myself when I changed the way that I ate. And I tell you what, avoiding junk food and soda, that'll make a big difference in your health. It's harder to make that change if you don't think of yourself as being that kind of person. So what kind of person do you want to be? What kind of choices does that person make? What kind of habits does that person have? And start thinking of yourself that way. It's a really interesting mental shift. And, I love changing the way that you think about things. And I'm probably going to do a couple videos on that coming up because I'm kind of really into it. So I loved that idea of changing how you see yourself and changing your identity in order to form a habit. The other really important truth of this book that he goes on to unpack in all the pages that I didn't read is that habits are best implemented through slow, incremental change. And I love that. That's a philosophy that I have had for a long time because that's the kind of person that I am. I make changes slowly over time because it's really, really overwhelming for me to go from, one set of habits to like really changing and going in a completely different direction. Some people can do that and they find that motivating. And if you're that kind of person, that's great. But most of us, from what I found, we prefer to do a little change at a time. So if I'm going in this direction, maybe I tweak it and go in this direction a little bit. And then eventually when I'm kind of getting used to this direction, I'll tweak it and start going this way. And that way, over time, we can build up a habit. I did this with exercise. When I decided that I wanted to start exercising and be a healthier person, the kind of person that moved around more in life instead of just sitting still, I started out very, very small. I did I don't know, a couple minutes of squats a day. Like seriously, it was really small. And I thought, well, I've mastered that. And I started incorporating 7-minute workouts and then 10-minute workouts and then 15-minute workouts. And at this point, I'm up to where I can run for a couple of miles. That takes a half an hour or so. I can do a half hour, 45-minute workout. And I think that's really great. And I do them like 4 or 5 times a week, where before when I first started, it was, a couple times a week, because I was just getting used to the idea of working out. So you can build those habits over time. It makes it a lot easier to avoid getting discouraged, because if you're making a huge change, your whole system, like everything that you are, is going to resist that change, because we do what we're used to doing. We do what we're taught to do, what we're programmed and conditioned to do, and we can change. I mean, we're not just animals who go by instinct. We can use our brains, we can decide things, and we can make changes. But the smaller the change is, the easier it is to implement and the easier it is to stick with. And then you can just add another small change and another one. And in a year or 2 or 10 years, you can be a whole kind of different, maybe not a different person, but live a different kind of life than what you had before. And you basically crafted that life because of your choices and your habits. And that's what we're going for. We're not going for, like a fad crash diet, something like that, but something that's going to stick for a long time. Now that's sort of the big picture of how we create habits and how they work. But now I'm going to talk about sort of the phases of a habit and how you know that change is happening and how you know it's working. The first and most important step is to make a decision. Whether that's unconscious or conscious, actually, you can do it either way. You can create habits accidentally, and then you have to decide, once you realize that you've created that habit, if you want to continue it or not. And this happened to me one time. I was going to the gym regularly on Saturdays, and a couple of weeks after I finished my workout, I thought, I'm hungry. I want to go to Chick-fil-A. So I did my little order and went to Chick-fil-A, picked it up, and came home and enjoyed it, and it was great. And then the next week I thought, maybe I'll do that again. And after a couple weeks of that, I suddenly got in my car after being in the gym and thought, I need to have some Chick-fil-A. And so that became probably a year-long habit. I would go to the gym and work out, and then I would go to Chick-fil-A. And you could be like, you just said that you're not the kind of person who eats junk food and all of that. Okay, fine. I do still eat food that is not always very healthy for me. I think I said that. It made me laugh because I was going to the gym and doing all this work, and then I was eating a lot of calories at Chick-fil-A. And I was picking food that was, I had iced tea and fruit cups and that kind of stuff. But man, I love those chicken nuggets. So that was an example of a habit that I created unconsciously. But once I realized that it was a habit, I thought, yeah, I'm okay with it. I'll just keep doing it. And I kept doing it until I had to stop going to the gym because the gym closed in 2020 for COVID. A habit starts with making a decision. And it starts with making the same decision over and over and over. You can do that intentionally, or you can do it by accident. It's probably better to do it intentionally. After you've made the decision, you think about it. You think about it all the time. You think, okay, I am this kind of person now who does this thing, and now I have to remember to do the thing. You can choose to do habit stacking, which is like you take your new habit that you want to form and do it along with a habit that you currently do. I attempt to do this when I take vitamins. The problem is I have stacked it with eating breakfast, and I don't eat breakfast at the same time every day, and I don't eat it in the same place every day, and it's not consistent enough to really stack taking vitamins with eating breakfast. But I still continue to try because I still continue to think that that's a good idea. But another habit that I started doing was to drink water in the morning when I get up before I drink my coffee. So the way I stacked that habit was while I'm making the coffee, I drink the water. And while I'm waiting for the coffee to brew, I keep drinking the water. And then when the coffee's done, I'm done drinking water. And now I have created this habit where I drink water and then I drink coffee. So you can take a habit that you're trying to establish and attach it to another habit that you always do so that it's easier to remember. But you have to remember. you have to think about it. You can put reminders up in different places. You can put them on your phone. You can put them on your mirror. You can put them on Post-it notes all over the place. There's all kinds of ways that you can trick your mind into remembering to do it, but you have to think about it, and that's important. Once you have kind of moved into a phase where you're developing that habit, and it can take anywhere from 2 times, really, to, the standard 21 days, 3 weeks, 40 days I've heard, 3 months I've heard, whatever time it is, to get to where you do the thing without thinking about it. So it becomes something that you just do. You don't have to remember it all the time. You can start to let those Post-it notes fall off the wall and you do the thing anyway. Or you've established it as part of your routine and you don't have to think about it anymore. And then the last phase is when you notice when you don't do it. So you're not thinking about the fact that you do it, but when you have to decide not to do it, like every once in a while, I decide not to brush my teeth before I go to bed. The horror, I know, but I'm really tired and I just want to go to bed, so I go to bed. But brushing my teeth is part of the going to the bed process, and so when I don't brush my teeth, I don't just forget to brush my teeth. I have to actually make a conscious decision to not do it, and I notice that I didn't do it, and it makes a big difference. I notice when I don't work out. I notice when I don't read my Bible. These are habits that are so ingrained in my life that when I don't do them, it's like it upsets the whole equilibrium of who I am. And so I notice when I don't do them. And that's the last phase, really. When you have created this habit, when it becomes something that you have to decide not to do, and that you notice when you don't do it. All right, tell me what you think about habits. How do you create new habits? How do you fix bad habits? And what do you think about this idea of creating an identity as being the kind of person who has a certain habit? Because I'm really into that one. So talk about that in the comments, and I want to see what you have to say. And of course, don't forget, if you have found this video enjoyable or helpful, or any of the other videos that I have done, you can keep watching, do that for sure, but also subscribe and share them with other people. And also, the notification bell is there in case you want to know whenever I post a new video. That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Now, get out there and tell your story, because someone needs to hear it.